For my research paper, I knew I wanted to do a topic involving climate change, but I wanted to narrow it down a bit. I've researched climate change in the past before, but this time around, I wanted to specifically go through the history, importance, steps towards transitioning to clean and renewable energy. For thousands of years, humans have used various means of technology to make their lives easier, from natural gases and resources such as coal and oil to inventions like the windmill, wind turbine, and solar panels. But with the use of fossil fuels like the mentioned oil and other natural gases, side effects on the planet occur such as climate change. Because of this, it is important to discuss and make a step towards replacing unsustainable energy sources with clean and reusable energy. So what is reusable energy, and what about non-sustainable energy? Different kinds of resources have been used from hundreds to thousands of years, from coal to windmills to solar panels. These resources provide for different needs of energy. From Procon.org, coal has been used as an energy source in China as far back as 2000 BC, and natural gas is as far back as 200 BC, as well as around the time that Europeans were using water and water wheels to generate their mills. For thousands of years, energy sources have been used, but what are the differences between the use of coal and natural gas and wind, sunlight, and water for energy? Fossil fuels, such as the before-mentioned coal, gas, and oil, are found in particular places around the world and are in limited quantity. These resources have an adverse effect on human health as well as the environment. Karen Kirk from Yale Climate Connections writes, a number of recent studies found that human-caused outdoor air pollution causes 100,000 to 200,000 premature U.S. deaths each year. While a common topic regarding the harmful consequences of fossil fuels is how it affects the planet, it's equally important to discuss how it is also harmful to humans. How fossil fuels affect humans vary on the type of fossil fuel and the location that they are found in, such as pollution caused by vehicles being pronounced in areas with higher population. Meanwhile, fossil fuels' effects on the environment ranges from acid rain from the nitrogen oxides let into Earth's atmosphere to containing water in aquifers that transmit groundwater. These problems could potentially be solved by transitioning to clean, renewable energy sources. From sunlight, wind, and water, around 5% of the United States energy consumption was from these renewables, expecting to grow about 2.4% every year for the next 30 years, according to Center for Climate and Energy Solutions. These energy sources are growing in use and production, while also generating less or no greenhouse gas emissions compared to fossil fuels. What are these renewable energy sources specifically? Some notables are wind, solar, water, and geothermal, plus biomass. They are considered renewable energy sources because they either produce no greenhouse gas emissions or produce very little compared to fossil fuels such as gas, oil, and coal. First is wind, which comes in a form of windmills and wind turbines that use the motion of wind to conjure energy. Second, using solar to capture solar energy from sunlight using solar panels for heating and electricity. Then, with water, generating energy with dams such as the Hoover Dam in Nevada in the United States and the Three Gorges Dam in China, hydropower is possible. This hydropower is generated from water flowing in rivers to streams and waves that can be used to generate electricity. Geothermal power, meanwhile, is brought on from a prolonged decay of radioactive particles from rocks from the Earth's core. According to Laura Shin from Natural Resource Defense Council, however, multiple factors, including depending on where there are underground reservoirs, determines how effective these geothermal power plants will be. Finally, biomass from Center for Climate Energy and Energy Solutions comes from waste like municipal solid waste, crops, wood from paper and lumber, and plus other sources. Biomass has been an energy source used in history for heating and cooking. Records from 2019 show that 11.6% of the total consumption of energy came from bioenergy. While biomass is one of the more sustainable energy sources that does generate some emissions, but is an important step in transitioning away from fossil fuels as a whole. Some of these renewable energy sources, such as solar and wind, have seen a decline in their costs between 2010 and 2019, making an increasing demand easier to compensate for. Decreasing the cost of renewable energy is an important step to making them easier to transition from fossil fuels in more countries than just the United States. With climate change being an ever-prevalent issue, what are governments, specifically the United States government, doing to transition from fossil fuels to clean renewable energy, if anything at all? According to the White House, President Joe Biden proposes to reduce greenhouse gas pollution by 50 to 52% from levels produced in 2005 by 2030. To do this, the White House plans on creating innovations from counties to institutions and businesses by devoting time and resources to infrastructure and other innovations, as well as creating new jobs that are well-paying and investing in improving the quality of air and clean drinking water. Overall, the goal is to slash emissions, cost of energy, while also bringing down the carbon pollution in transportation, agriculture, and other industrial facilities, but keeping the industries efficient. Additionally, along with a steady increase in the transition to renewables, there has to be a discontinuance of fossil fuels. From the Washington Post, the Biden administration ordered to cease federal support of heavy carbon projects outside of the country, designed to accelerate the use and development of renewables while also slowing down the use of fossil fuels. Actions like this are essential to the transition of fossil fuels to renewable energy. Renewable energy has many benefits over non-renewables, such as reduction in causes of global warming, improved public health, sustainability, and job creation, according to IRENA. Wind, solar, and hydropower produce little to no air pollution. Other renewable energy technologies, such as biomass and geothermal, do emit air pollutants, but at much lower rates than other conventional fuels. That means that transitioning from non-renewables like fossil fuels would have the benefit of not only being sustainable, but reduces the harmful effect on the planet that would otherwise be prevalent with the use of fossil fuels like oil, gas, and coal. Not only does this positively affect the Earth, but the health of the planet's population as well. Additionally, many people around the world do not have a safe and reliable access to electricity. People gaining access to renewables would not only provide energy, but also provide reliable energy and a way to create more jobs. Speaking of job creation, this benefit would not only affect the before-mentioned countries that are streamlining access to energy and electricity, but also create new jobs in countries that would be actively transitioning to renewable energy as well. According to IRENA, in 2017, renewable energies employed around 10.3 million people around the world. This number will continue to grow if governments support it, there are continual improvements in technology, and an overall decrease in the cost of renewables. Finally, in terms of the benefits of renewables, they are reliable. Not only are they sustainable, meaning these energy sources such as solar and wind don't run the risk of running out, whereas gas, oil, and coal do, these renewables are less likely to fail during things like bad weather and emergencies. It is important that these benefits to sustainable energy do not only affect the lives of people around the world, but the planet itself. However, it may be important to speak of some disadvantages to these renewable energy sources in order to understand why they haven't already been implemented. From our world and data, fossil fuels dominate the world's energy supply because in the past they were cheaper than all other sources of energy. If we want the world to be powered by safer and cleaner alternatives, we have to make sure that those alternatives are cheaper than fossil fuels. Possibly, the biggest issue for many governments around the world is simply the cost. It has only been as of recently that a lot of renewables are becoming cheaper than what they once were. If there is to be a transition from fossil fuels to renewables, renewable energy sources need to be cheaper in comparison to fossil fuels like coal, gas, and oil. Finally, why renewable energy is so important. The effects already caused by climate change are irreversible, but it is important that these are all prevented from getting worse before it is impossible to ever go back. From higher temperatures to worse storms and acidic water and rising sea levels, not only will these changes affect the people on the planet, but the wildlife as well. According to National Oceanic and Atmospheric, as oceans get warmer and sea levels rise, flooding will become more of an issue. Coral reefs will be vulnerable to bleaching, and the ocean becomes more acidic as it absorbs more carbon dioxide that's already released in the atmosphere. This will negatively affect the health of creatures living in the ocean. The changes that climate change will make will disrupt the planet Earth until it is in a state no longer habitable. It is important to negate this issue, not only for the health of the human population, but the health of all species and the planet itself. From the National Wildlife Federation, rising sea levels shrink habitats for many species of birds, fish, and other wildlife. While changes in when and where it snows will cause invasive species to move to different parts of the world, as well as hotter temperatures causing droughts that will not only affect human crops, but local wildlife as well. Transitioning from fossil fuels that emit harmful substances into the atmosphere and cause a variety of issues from rising sea levels to acid rain and acidic oceans, increasing temperatures can only be prevented if action is taken. World governments need to step in and force a transition that stops the use of fossil fuels and creates the use of renewables such as solar, wind, water, and at the same time investing in creating jobs, careers, and new infrastructure. If this does not happen, the Earth will reach a point of no return and human health will decline from unbreathable air and unsafe drinking water, among many other issues, as well as the Earth reaching a state where its species and ecosystems will start to decline from it being uninhabitable. Despite the promises in a global pandemic, according to National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the year 2020 saw a rise in carbon dioxide emissions. This issue will not be solved unless there is a commitment to transitioning to clean renewable energy, and soon.